Hey everyone, welcome to BC Real Estate Exam Prep. In today's video, we're diving into Chapter 1, Fundamentals of Law and the Real Estate Services Act, also known as RESA. This chapter is foundational for understanding the legal aspects of real estate transactions, and we're going to break it all down. I'll also cover some key study questions and case scenarios to help you really grasp the concepts and get ready for your BC real estate exam. So, let's get started.
Section 1. Introduction to Law and Real Estate. First up, let's talk about the role of law in real estate transactions. Law is essential in real estate because it ensures that all agreements made are legally binding, protecting everyone involved, buyers, sellers, and agents, and ensuring fairness. It helps us avoid disputes and make sure that property rights are respected. The main types of law relevant to real estate are 1. Contract law, which governs agreements between parties. 2. Property law, which deals with ownership rights in property transactions. 3. Tort law, which addresses wrongs or injuries that can occur in real estate transactions. 4. Statutory law, which involves laws created by legislation, like zoning laws. Understanding the difference between private law and public law is key too. Private law governs disputes between individuals, for example, between a buyer and a seller. On the other hand, public law involves the relationship between individuals and the...
Section 2. Legal concepts in real estate. Now let's get into some legal terms. We need to know the difference between real property and personal property. Real property refers to land and anything permanently attached to it, like buildings, houses, or fences, whereas personal property includes items that are not permanently fixed to the land, like furniture, appliances, or vehicles. Another important concept is the title in real estate. A title is a legal document that shows who owns the property. It's vital because it establishes ownership rights and can also show any claims against the property, like a mortgage or lien. We also have to understand the types of estates and interests in land. For example, a fee simple estate is the highest level of ownership, giving the owner full control over the land. Meanwhile, a leasehold estate is a temporary right to occupy a property under a lease agreement. Section 3. Contract law in real estate. Next, we move to contract law in real estate. A real estate contract is a legally binding agreement between parties, whether that's for buying, selling, leasing, or transferring property. To make a contract valid, there are a few essential elements. 1. Offer. One party offers something of value. 2. Acceptance. The other party agrees. 3rd, consideration. Something of value is exchanged, like money for property. 4th, legal capacity. The parties involved must have the ability to enter a contract, meaning they're legally competent. Contracts can be voided under certain conditions, such as if a party was under duress, if there was fraud, or if one party lacked the legal capacity to contract. Section 4. The Real Estate Services Act, RESA. Now, let's focus on RESA, or the Real Estate Services Act, which is the legislation that governs real estate professionals in BC. RESA regulates the real estate industry to ensure that agents, brokers, and property managers act professionally and ethically. It's all about protecting the public and making sure that transactions are fair, transparent, and legal. Under RESA, the Real Estate Council of British Columbia, RECBC, is responsible for overseeing real estate professionals, ensuring they meet the required standards, and enforcing the legislation. One of the key points you need to understand about RESA is the fiduciary duties it imposes on real estate professionals, such as loyalty, full disclosure, confidentiality, and competence. Section 5. Licensing and compliance. To become a licensed real estate professional in BC, you need to complete the required education, pass exams, and submit a licensing application. You also need to undergo a background check. Once you're licensed, you'll need to meet continuing education requirements to stay updated on industry changes and maintain your license. Remember, compliance with the Real Estate Services Act is non-negotiable. If you don't comply, you risk losing your license and facing legal consequences. Section 6. Fiduciary duties. Fiduciary duties are critical. They are the responsibilities you have as a real estate agent to act in the best interests of your client. These duties include 1. Loyalty, putting the client's interests above your own. 2. Full disclosure, being transparent and disclosing all relevant information to the client. 3. Confidentiality, keeping the client's information confidential, even after the transaction is completed. 4th, competence, providing professional and knowledgeable services to your client. Let's now look at a few study case scenarios to put these concepts into practice. Study case 1. The disputed contract. In this scenario, a buyer and seller sign a contract for the purchase of a home, but the seller later changes their mind. The buyer wants to enforce the contract. Can the buyer enforce the contract? Yes, if the contract is legally binding and the seller hasn't fulfilled any conditions that would allow them to cancel. The buyer can enforce the contract, and the seller could face legal consequences for breaching it. Study case 2. Easement conflict. Next, we have two neighbors disputing an easement. One neighbor has the legal right to access the other's land for a shared driveway, but now the owner of the land denies access. What legal steps can the neighbors take? They can seek mediation or take the matter to court to clarify the terms of the easement and resolve the dispute. Study case 3. Fiduciary breach. Let's say an agent discloses confidential information about a client to another party for personal gain. What are the consequences of this breach of fiduciary duty? The agent has violated their fiduciary duties, and this could result in them losing their license, facing legal action, and being required to pay damages. All right, that's a wrap on Chapter 1. Fundamentals of Law and the Real Estate Services Act. We've covered a lot, from legal concepts to fiduciary duties, and I've given you some real-life case scenarios to help you understand how these principles apply in the real world. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more study tips and exam prep content. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer them in upcoming videos. Good luck studying, and I'll see you in the next one.